Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. Today we are diving into something I think about a lot: what it actually means to be a library professional in the age of artificial intelligence. The title of this video lecture is From Information Gatekeepers to Trust Architects. That phrase, trust architects, is not just a catchy label. It's a reframing of who librarians are, what they do, and why they matter now more than ever. Over the next few slides, we are going to look at the forces reshaping the information landscape, the unique role that trained information professionals play within it, and a very practical set of tools and protocols you can start using right away. So whether you are a student just entering this field or a seasoned professional wondering where things are heading, this lecture is for you. Let's get into it. Let's start with a reality check. Not long ago, producing a research report, a structured summary, or a policy manual took weeks. You needed access, expertise, time, and institutional backing to create anything of substance. That barrier has now essentially vanished. Today, every person with an internet connection can produce in minutes what once took weeks. We are, and I use this without exaggeration, living through the greatest explosion of content production in human history. AI tools can generate articles, draft reports, synthesize literature, and write executive summaries at a speed no human team could match. And here is the critical insight from this slide: the barrier to creation has vanished, but the barrier to curation remains completely untouched. Creating is no longer the hard part. Evaluating, contextualizing, and verifying, that is where the real human work lives. That is where your value as an information professional sits. And that is exactly what we will unpack next. Here's a metaphor I really want you to sit with. Think about the internet right now as infinite generated content, a flood of material pouring in from every direction. AI can generate it, retrieve it, and produce lists of it endlessly. But here's what AI cannot do: it cannot evaluate that content. It cannot tell you which paper actually shifted the direction of a research field. It cannot weigh methodological rigor against publication bias. It cannot understand the context of a community's information need. That is what the information professional does. You are the mechanism in the center of this diagram, the filter that transforms a paralyzing, chaotic flood into a navigable river of settled, trustworthy knowledge. Curated navigable knowledge is not just a nice output. In research, policy, healthcare, education, it is the difference between good decisions and dangerous ones. Shaping vast information into something a human being can actually use is a distinctly human professional skill. And it is yours. Now let's address the fear directly, because I know many of you have heard it: AI is going to replace librarians. I want to offer you a different mental model entirely. Think of AI as the engine and human expertise as the steering wheel. An engine gives you speed, scale, consistency, and mechanical retrieval. It can process enormous amounts of data faster than any team of humans. But an engine without a steering wheel is not useful. It's dangerous. The steering wheel, your judgment, your ethics, your ability to verify sources and determine direction, is what makes the whole system work. A steering wheel without an engine is exhausting. A steering wheel with one? You can go anywhere. Together, these two elements allow the library professional to travel farther than either could alone. The knowledge and judgment of a trained information professional can now be extended far beyond traditional limits to support entire institutions simultaneously. This is expansion. This is not replacement. This is the most exciting moment in the history of this profession. Let's make this concrete with what I'm calling the professional evolution matrix. Look at how every dimension of the librarian's role shifts between the pre-AI era and the AI native era. In terms of identity, you moved from Information Gatekeeper, controlling access, to Trust Architect, building reliability. In terms of output, from one-to-one retrieval, helping one researcher for one afternoon, to a one-to-many research partnership, supporting whole institutions simultaneously. Your core skill shifts from finding information to evaluating and verifying information. Your primary value moves from access, which AI now handles, to context and empathy, which AI cannot replicate. And the bottleneck changes too, from time and mechanical work, to authenticity and ethics. Here is the line I want to stay with you. The libraries that succeed will not be those that adopt technology the fastest, but those that place transparency and human values at the center of their journey. Speed is not the differentiator. Values are. Let me bring this to life with a real example. On the left you see the exhaustive path, the way most librarians have traditionally supported a systematic literature review. Days of database searching. Downloading papers. Reading abstracts. Formatting references. By the end, there's often anxiety and what I call support role fatigue. You've done enormous work but feel invisible in the research process. Now look at the empowered path on the right. With AI handling the mapping and bibliography building in roughly 4 hours, the librarian is freed to spend a day and a half doing critical reading, gap analysis, and shaping the intellectual synthesis. That is a fundamentally different role. And the quote at the bottom of this slide is one that stopped me when I first read it, from a medical librarian who used this approach. For the first time in my career, I felt like an intellectual contributor rather than a support function. That is the transformation on offer. AI removes the barrier of repetitive, mechanical work, freeing hours to think, analyze, question, and shape inquiry. But here's where I want to offer a genuine caution. The fingerprint on the left of this slide represents something irreplaceable, your unique professional voice and human judgment. The smooth sphere on the right represents what happens when AI polishes everything to a uniform finish. Notice what is lost in that transition, the distinctive whirls, the individual lines, the texture that makes something authentically human. The case note here is instructive. An LIS student used AI to polish an essay. The result was technically flawless. But the student's personal voice had entirely vanished. Here is the core principle. As libraries adopt AI, literacy means knowing how to use these tools, but also knowing how to question them. We must preserve human judgment, critical thinking, and cultural memory against over-reliance on automated outputs. AI should enhance your thinking, not replace it. If every communication you produce sounds like it came from the same generator, something essential is lost, not just in your work, but in the profession as a whole. This is one of the most important slides in the entire lecture, so I want you to pay close attention. Imagine a PhD scholar submits a bibliography with 41 perfectly APA-formatted references. Everything looks correct: the journal names, the author surnames, the publication years. Then random sampling is done. And fabricated citations are found. This is not a hypothetical. This happens. And here's why: AI writes with remarkable confidence. It will generate a paper that was never written, place it in a journal that never published it, and attribute it to an author who never said it, all in flawless formatting. This is what we call hallucination, and the mechanism is important to understand. AI does not recall fixed facts. It generates plausible responses. And in research, a fabricated citation that feels correct is uniquely dangerous. One fake reference is one too many. The implications for your role as a librarian are enormous. You are now the essential verification layer between AI-generated outputs and the integrity of scholarly knowledge. So how do you actually verify AI-generated citations? This slide gives you a practical 3-step protocol. First, does the source exist? Check the DOI or ISSN. If it claims to have one, that claim is verifiable. Second, can you access the original source? Not the abstract AI gives you, the actual source document. And third, does the source actually support the claim being made? Many hallucinated citations exist but don't say what they're cited to say. Now look at the cross-examination technique in the cycle on the right. Ask AI for the abstract. Then ask again for the ISSN or DOI. Then watch for shifting details, an author's name that changes, a volume number that moves, a journal title that subtly evolves between responses. Fabricated citations unravel under cross-examination precisely because AI generates plausible responses rather than recalling fixed facts. Inconsistency is the clue. And this is a skill that is native to the information professional, the trained instinct to question provenance and verify sources. Now let's get practical with the specific tools that form your verification arsenal. Crossref is your starting point for initial verification. If a citation claims a DOI and Crossref cannot find it, flag it immediately. Semantic Scholar and OpenAlex give you broad verification across more than 200 million scholarly works. Retraction Watch is critical for integrity checking. It identifies papers that exist but are no longer reliable due to retraction or correction. On the right, PubMed remains the essential baseline for anything in the health sciences. And Cite is a powerful tool for citation context. It shows you not just whether a paper was cited, but whether later research supported or challenged its findings. Together, these tools embody a crucial principle: we must rely on systems designed to identify facts, rather than systems that predict plausible answers. AI predicts. These tools identify. Knowing the difference, and knowing when to use which, is now a core competency for every information professional. Let me introduce you to a proactive skill that goes beyond verifying individual citations, evaluating journals before your researchers submit to them. Traditionally, library professionals would direct researchers toward journals based on publisher claims and impact factor. But impact factor is an incomplete picture, and predatory publishing continues to grow. The toolkit shown here, powered by OpenAlex and the Problematic Paper Screener, lets you track journal trends in a much more rigorous way. You can monitor country and institution publication patterns, watch for Scopus indexing and delisting signals, and identify research integrity flags linked to papers already published in a journal. The application is straightforward. Rather than relying solely on what a publisher tells you about their journal, evaluate actual publication patterns before your researcher submits months of work. And the closing line here is one I feel strongly about: a few minutes of checking can prevent months of regret for early career scholars. That guidance, offered proactively, is what a trust architect does. Here is something that often surprises people who are new to this conversation. Look at the two columns in this diagram. On the left, traditional LIS foundations, evaluating sources, organizing metadata, protecting user privacy, navigating complex systems. On the right, global AI governance demands, identifying and reducing bias, tracing information provenance, auditing data privacy, ensuring transparent outputs. Notice the arrows connecting them. These are not parallel fields. They are the same field. The skills librarians have been developing for decades are precisely what the global AI governance conversation is now desperately searching for. When discussions of AI governance take place, in policy rooms, in technology companies, in regulatory bodies, technology and regulations dominate. Librarians are the missing link. You do not need to become an AI engineer to contribute meaningfully to this conversation. Your value lies in asking the right questions about sources, provenance, bias, and privacy. The conversation is underway. Information professionals must now choose to take their seat at the table. And this brings us to the closing thought, the principle I want you to carry with you from this lecture. Technology automates. Humans elevate. AI should strengthen the mission of libraries, not replace the values that define them. I want to be very clear about what this means in practice. Learning AI tools is not a concession to technology. It is not surrendering to a machine. It is an opportunity to become more of what you were already trained to be, a critical thinker, a guide, a curator, a trusted professional who helps people navigate knowledge with integrity. The profession has always evolved alongside information technology. This moment is no different, except that the stakes are higher, the volume is greater, and the need for human judgment is more urgent than it has ever been. So learn the tools. Question the outputs. Preserve your voice. And step into the role of trust architect with confidence. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, do subscribe and join the AI4Lib community. See you in the next lecture.